John the Ripper will automatically attempt to identify hashes when you crack them. So we can do an example of this, and we can do sudo John, and then we do -- word list for the word list we want to specify, and then I'm going to paste my path there to rocku.txt, and I'm going to try and crack this hash called hash1.txt. And you can see that it will go through it and it will say the session's done. But I don't think it actually cracked it, and we can check this by checking the John pot, which I'll talk about later. So if we just cat .john.pot, you can see that there's no password, there's no cracked hash in there, so it wasn't successful. And I can also see warning, detected hash type LMM, but the string is also recognized as raw MD5. So it's attempted to identify it, but I don't think it's been successful in actually identifying it. So what we can do is we can use other tools available to us, whether it's on the internet, on an actual program itself. And one I like to use is called hash-identifier. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm just going to cat out hash1.txt. You can see there's my string, so I'm just now going to do hash-identifier, and then it will ask me to pop in the hash. So I'm going to grab the hash and I'm going to pass it to the application or the program. I'm going to hit return, and in order of the most likelihood it will tell us what hash it is, and in this case it looks like it's an MD5. So that's how you would identify hashes. There are a lot of tools on the internet as well, on Google and things like that. Yeah, so you can use Google to search for things to identify hashes, or you can use built-in tools like hash-identifier if John isn't able to identify the hash. One question that pops up quite regularly is about word lists. Where'd you get them from? How do you create them? What are they for? And whether it's brute forcing directories or sticking payloads in burp, or in this case cracking password hashes, people want to know where you get the word lists from or how you create word lists. Well, I don't see the point in recreating word lists, especially when somebody else has already done a perfect job of creating word lists. And you can see this GitHub repository by Daniel Meslier. I want to say apologies if I said that incorrectly, but he has a great word list repository on GitHub with various different categories. So you've got discovery, so this would be like discovering URLs. You've got fuzzing, so you can put these in your intruder payloads for web requests. You got passwords, pattern matching. I believe that would be for like buffer overflows and things like that, perhaps. Update Angular, dangerous functions, payloads, usernames, web shells. This word list is fantastic, and I've got it installed on my local machine. And I believe Rocku is in here as well, along with other variations, shorter ones, longer ones. So this answers the question of where to get word lists from. You can create your own using tools like Crunch, and that's particularly useful if you're on a job and you know the organization's sort of naming conventions of first name dot last name and things like that. And you can use Crunch to generate word lists and mangle those word lists, so you can do things like username enumeration and things like that. But yeah, this word list repository on GitHub called Seclist is great, and I'd recommend everybody get a copy and download it, especially if you're like new to pen testing. It's what I use for every single sort of job I'm on, or every video I do is this repository here has everything you need. We now know how we can identify hashes, whether it's using a tool that we found through a Google search, or whether it's using an application that we have installed locally like hash-identifier. We also know where we can find word lists. We can search for them on Google. We know that the pen testing distributions have some built in, or we can use something that everybody uses like rocku.txt. And we now know that we have a tool that we can use to crack these passwords called John the Ripper. So with that in mind, perhaps we can use John the Ripper to crack these pesky hashes that I've just built up in my directory.